Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Bacon and Coffee. We're going to have a great show today. I've got my buddy Jeff Herring on the line. We're going to have some content conversations today. We're going to learn a great deal about working with content online. But before we get started, let's start with the 30-second countdown. Here we go. All right, and next we're going to start off with our jingle for a little caffeine and pork motivation. Here we go. All right. Jeff Herring is in the house, my man.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Oh, it's fabulous, man. Coming to us from Georgia.
Georgia in the foothills of the North Georgia mountains.
That's
several miles north of Atlanta.
That's a beautiful thing, my man.
It is a beautiful area. You know what? We're far enough north from Atlanta to be away from the craziness, but close enough to, drive down for a game like my son and his wife did for his first Father's Day last night. Or to go to a concert or whatever, like we're doing later in the year, but close enough to the mountains and the lakes. In fact, now that Caleb's going to be going to UNG, we're probably going to be up a little bit further north as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. So when you're out hiking, I imagine you find all kinds of interesting things. I mean, you find wildlife, you find rare plants, meet some people, but occasionally you find, I'm assuming, because I've seen this from other people who hike, is they find things like animal skeletons. And so I'm sure you've seen a bunch of those, and you brought one home one time. His name was Chubby. Whatever happened to Chubby the skeleton?
Well, Chubby had a long run. He really did. And he's in one of the back rooms now, still wearing his neckerchief and I think a pair of headphones. But one day I just, I was doing something live and I was looking back there and I thought, this just doesn't fit anymore.
Yeah.
And so, but I still like the idea of Chubby, Chubby the skeleton and all that. So I was thinking we need to think of him as Private Lamb on MASH.
Yeah, that's Remember? A good idea. Yes, I do.
The soldier that didn't ever really exist, but they made him up.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that stuff, I do still have right here with me. Actually, this is Chubby's neckerchief here. I still do have Chubby's mascot, which is Bacon Cat. Okay?
That's awesome.
This comes from the first time you and I ever spoke on the phone. It was a long, rollicking conversation. And one of the things you told me was that the two most opened graphics on online, on social media, were cats and bacon.
Right.
And so I went on Amazon and found a stuffed cat.
That's Grumpy Cat.
And a stuffed bacon.
And that's just Bacon Boy.
And with two pieces of Velcro, put them together, and now we have Bacon Cat.
I love Bacon Cat. Yeah. And you actually have a graphic for that too that you created a long time
ago. I do. We'll have to bring it around somewhere. And also, speaking of bringing things back from hiking, I have a little tradition that I either bring back an interesting looking stick. Let me go grab one here. Here's an interesting looking stick.
Layla would love that, my dog.
Oh yeah, I keep them away from ours. And then, or an interesting looking rock or pebble.
Cool.
So we have a bunch on my desk. Have jars full of them all throughout the house. So if you ever hear on the news that the mountains are disappearing, I'll take responsibility.
There you go. You're taking it one rock and stick at a time. But
that's right. That's right.
So anyways, we are here to talk about content. We've got an hour, which always feels like about 15 minutes when it's all said and done. But what I've done today is I've created a bunch of what I call Baconisms. Now, Baconisms, for people who've never seen them, and I put them up online all the time. In honor of you, I've created content Baconism. So a Baconism to me is something that I say in presentations over and over and over again. And then I use those as content, as graphics. And in my world, I use them. I actually have a VA who puts them up every single day. And they're usually just short quips in a square that I could throw up on social media. So one of them is people don't do business with other people. Business do business with people. When you contact somebody, you're a salesperson. When they contact you, you're an expert. No, like and trust is important, and trust has to be earned. So those are, just kind of things that are, kind of standardized. So here's what I've got is I'm going to start off with one here. I'm going to pick one. So here is one that I want you to kind of dig into. What I want to do is put these in front of you and just kind of explain your theory behind it and why it's important. Okay. So we're going to get to Jeff. Yeah, and this is going to be...
So everybody knows, I have no idea what's coming.
Yeah, he's never seen these because I wrote these this morning. So you ready? Okay, so here's the first one. I'm going to put you full screen so that everybody can see the surprise on your face.
Here good. The pressure's
okay,
on.
Here we go. All right. So this is the first one. What is the man bites dog surprise of your message?
The what?
Man bites dog surprise of your message.
The man bites dog.
Have you ever heard? Dog bites man is not news, but man bites dog is newsworthy.
You know what it is? It goes back to. I was thinking about this the other day, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know I'm a recovering counseling psychologist, and did that for 25 years. Got a master's in counseling psych at FSU, and was working on my PhD. And my professors told me I couldn't write.
Really?
And I believed them. And so I never finished my PhD because I couldn't do the dissertation, right? Because it involved writing. And I still couldn't write academically if you held a gun to my head.
Mm-hmm.
A few years later, I ended up writing a weekly relationship column for the newspaper. And there's a lot of stories here. One of the things it did, in a town glutted with therapists, Tallahassee is teeming with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these PhDs, all the people I went to school with that got their doctorates, but they're starving in their practice. And I'm thriving in mine because of this 650-word article in the paper. And, I became the guy in the paper and then would take it over to the radio station and the TV station once a week or once a month. And so the man bites dog is stop writing and start creating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? Stop writing. I don't call myself a writer. I'm a creator. I love creating content, whether it's curriculum for a webinar or a live cast or something for this, an article, anything that involves content, which, by the way, everything's content. So I guess the man bites dog is, folks, you can do this even if you think you can't.
And I love that concept. And the key thing is the last time that we talked, we had, a conversation. You actually took the conversation, wrote an article on it, right?
I did. The psychology of content.
Yeah.
In fact, you asked me, what's the psychology of content? And I came up with two things right away. It was like, I'm forgetting them right now, but I'll look at them in a second. But we added a third one, okay? Mm-hmm. That you make a connection, okay? Yeah, you make a connection, create a relationship, make the profit. Yeah, connection, relationship, profit, and difference, right?
Right.
And then the next morning, now don't get me wrong, it's not like I think about you in the shower, but I came up with this one the next morning in the shower. And it was 5 things. Stop the scroll was the first one. Stop the scroll, create a connection, build the relationship, make a difference or create a difference, and make the profit. And as I was showing it to my mastermind group, several of them said, wow, if you do the first 4, you can't help but do number 5, which is profit.
Right. And that's essentially what creating content is about. The man bites dog story is the thing that just, you go, what? It makes you stop and think. And that's the key thing about it. And I appreciate you thinking about me in the shower. I understand that kind of thing. I usually think about you when I'm walking my dog. I don't know what that says, but
I think that's probably better.
Yeah, right. But I was walking, one of the things that the stuff that we talked about last time, and you've gone through, the class that I call Tribe now. That's my thing, is I call it Tribe. And that is, basically how to create, how to build your sphere of influence through 150 people. And that's essentially what we're talking about.
Right.
And I actually did that in numerous different things. I took that same presentation. I did it to a mastermind group. I did it to a networking group. I did it to your group. And every time I did that, I learned something different. But somebody who might be listening to us right now, Ellen Huxtable, I asked her afterwards, I said, what did you think of it? And she said to me, she says, the big aha, or the man bites dog from that, is you already have what you need. You're not going out trying to find new people. You're trying to use the 150 people that you have. That was the man bites dog.
That's you.
And then the other man bites dog moment that I had was walking my dog again, and I didn't get bit. But it was like I was listening to an audiobook, and it's one of those kind of things where your brain starts going off on tangents. And I thought to myself, I don't think anybody's really ever defined what know, like, and trust means. You hear it all the time, right?
Oh, yeah. It's one of those things that everybody just accepts.
Yeah, everybody accepts the know, like, and trust, the hierarchy. But I actually went in for the system that we talked about with the 150 and said, okay, what if I gave people 3 things that they had to check the boxes? If you do A, B, and C to check the boxes, you've gotten to the know. If you got the 3 boxes here, you've gotten to the like, and then trust happens here. And I could tell you that
it's a checklist for know, like, and trust.
Exactly. But it was and again, this is based on the B2B side. But what the know was is, have I met this person, on a Zoom or something? Number 2 is, did we have a conversation? And then the third thing that I said
is, son, see ya. Oh, sorry.
Bye, Caleb. See you later. And then the third one was, are they CRM worthy? And what I mean by, and it was funny because I was teaching this thing to a bunch of ladies, and they all went back to the Seinfeld episode about Elaine and Spongeworthy. They took it down a completely different path, but that's okay. It made it memorable to them. But the CRM worthy is, I know this person, I've talked to them, I've had a conversation, but do I want to stay in touch with them? Because if they're not CRM worthy, what's the point, right? If you don't want to stay in touch with them. And then the like portion was, are they following me online? Are they engaging with my content? And did we have a one-on-one conversation of substance? And then the third thing is the trust. And that is, would they recommend me? Could I recommend them? Or do we have a case where we could work together in business? So if you start going up that hierarchy, you say, you go, okay, I've got them in my CRM. They're connecting with me, and they're actually sharing my content, engaging with my content. I'm engaging with their content. We have this relationship. And then it gets to the point is, can they, in the B2B space, now again, in personal, content, it may not be the same. The thing is, I think you can fill in that gap, but it's, can I do business with them? Can I recommend them? Would they recommend me? Is there a business case to take this to the trust level? Right? Because trust is a transaction. So, so just walking the dog, all of a sudden it was like, okay, so how do I turn that into content? Right? I mean, that's essentially what you're saying. So the man bites dog is, nobody has really kind of defined what know, like, and trust is. And I was able to do it. So here's the bottom line. What does know, like, and trust mean to you? That's man bites dog.
That's your next book right there.
Yeah.
So let me answer that by adding something to it.
Please go ahead. That's why I wanted to bring it up.
Is essential. Okay. It's important. And you're doing great work helping us understand that. To me, there's a 4th step. Know, like, trust, and then desire to work with you. Okay.
Right.
And I've learned that through the years of having mentor programs, and different clients tell me, I've been saving up to do this for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Or, I did this so I could do that. The most recent one, Brian, and I tell Teresa's story all the time because it's such a great story. Beginning of the year, I did a boot camp, 2-day boot camp on content creation. And side note, they started keeping a list of Jeffisms.
And I love that. Yeah,
absolutely. I do too. I got to collect them together sometime and do something with them. But Teresa really wanted badly into Content Creation Nation at the end of the boot camp. Okay, it's just $97 a month, but she was worried that she was going to once again get in something and not be able to stay with it. Mm-hmm. And I understand that. We've all been there. So listen to what she did, and I'm bringing up a little note about it. She went into her PayPal, mm-hmm. okay? And she looked around for all the things she was already paying monthly for, mm-hmm. that she wasn't using. Okay? Yep. And canceled them. And they came up to $77. So she had 20 more bucks to get, right? So she canceled one of my $20 a month thing.
Well, hey,
which I thought was great. And so she had the $97 a month without spending any more. Mm-hmm. So she became a member of Content Creation Nation without spending any more money. And I've recommended that strategy to so many people. And I tell you that story to say, in order to be willing to do that, she had to know, like, and trust me.
Yes.
Right. And then have the desire to work with me. So I'm curious, what are the 3 check boxes under know, like, and trust?
On mine?
Yeah.
It depends on the person. For you, it's all of the above.
Okay.
You fill in every single box. I mean, we've met in person. We've had a great conversation. You are so CRM worthy. You follow me, I follow you. We both like each other's content, and I would recommend you, and you would recommend me, and we have done business together. So you check all the boxes. You're what I call a 3-3-3. You basically, you're all 3 here, all 3 here, all 3 here.
Okay.
Those, if you sit down and get to your 150 people, they should at least have one in every single one of those.
I like that.
I mean, that's how you define who your 150 are. And the thing is it's not necessarily, people that you would do business with. It's people you would recommend too. You want to stay in touch with them because you want to keep them in mind. If you're recommending somebody, there's some reciprocation potentially happening there. They might, if I recommend somebody, say a plumber 10 times, if somebody needs something, they always recommend me back one way, shape, or form. I may or may not be a good fit, but at least there's that, right?
Brian, a great example of that is my insurance guy.
Yes.
There is a Facebook group called Focus on Forsyth County. Mm-hmm. County I live here in Georgia. For short, it's called FOCO, Forsyth County, FOCO. And every now and then people will ask for recommendations. And whenever they ask for insurance, I jump on and I promote the heck out of a guy named Van Bear. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because before he was our insurance guy, he was my son's small group leader at church.
Oh, wow.
In high school. Then he became my insurance guy. And then John's when he started driving. And I loved being in the office that day when they were putting it together because Van gave him a talk about the dangers of driving. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I love that someone else is pouring into my son's life, right? And of course, Caleb's on that policy now too. He's all our insurance guy, but he's also the guy that married Joe and Caroline.
Oh, wow.
And, he's done a lot for us, and us for him as friends and stuff. But it's like, I had a conversation with him Wednesday or Tuesday because I had an insurance question and his secretary was out of town. And I said, "Oh, so you're playing Van and Kim, huh?" He's like, "Oh my gosh." But that's part of the reason I recommend him. And Kim is so good as well, his assistant. And so because of that, anybody that's got an insurance issue, I just say Van Baird Don't ask any more questions. Just go. Van Baird, hands down.
That's awesome.
The kind of referral you want from what you do. This guy, this girl, this lady, this man.
Right. Well, and that's the whole concept of know, like, and trust. Okay, so let me get to the next question because I want to barrel through it. Yeah. So it's good. Okay, so the next Jeffism or Baconism is good content makes you think. Great content makes you feel.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Good content makes you think. Great content makes you feel. Mm-hmm. Back to the relationship column I started writing weekly that had a lot of people stunned because, wait a minute, he can't write. And so there were 4 people that had it before me, Brian. It was something the newspaper did, and you sent in a couple things you wrote, and you got it for 6 months to a year, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the 4 people before me, or 3 of them, wrote about really exciting titles like, what is depression? What is bipolar? What is anxiety? Oh boy, that'll stop the scroll. And so back
then people didn't scroll newspapers.
That's true. That's true. This is back in '94 when it started. Well, it came around again in '93, and I applied and came in second. And sometimes that's worse than last,
Yeah.
Especially when the person that got it is in your practice. Like, dang. But she wrote about it was just so. I mean, she made Shirley MacLaine look like a staunch conservative. The things she wrote about it was a lot of woo and a lot of who. And so, being the persistent sort of guy I am, when it came around again, I applied and got it. And my first thought was, how am I going to come up with an idea every week, right? 650 words. Well, within about a month, it was, how do I narrow them down to one? Because once you start looking through content eyes, you can content eyes anything.
Ooh, that's a Jeffism, right?
There you go. Content eyes, EYES, and content eyes, IZE. And so all I started doing, Brian, was I started writing about, carefully disguised enough so people wouldn't know who I was writing about, but staying true to the situation. I wrote about the unique way I approach problems and the unique way I solve problems. Mm-hmm. I told stories and I used humor. And that turned into content. To me, that's a difference between an article and a column. Mm-hmm. Articles tell, columns sell.
Right.
Okay. And so that's the love part of it, from content that might be informational to something you love. And when I knew it was working, a few things happened. Colleagues were calling me up and saying, "Damn you." I'm like, "What?" And they said, "I had another couple come in today with your column in their hand, and they wanted to talk about this." Okay, I'm like, "Okay, that's pretty cool." And then I got my first client, first of many, that told the story when they came in. Was we've been reading your column all along. This was an adolescent family issue, and the husband said, when I mentioned to my wife that I had seen you at a talk somewhere, she turned around and you go, "You mean he's here?" They thought I was some, I don't know, DC or, rich newspaper dude. And as soon as that happened, they were in, right? And then the other thing that told me this content stuff works is, like I alluded to before, there were more therapists in Tallahassee than cab drivers because of the universities. There were more clinical members of my association, or as many in Tallahassee as there were in Orlando, Orange County, which is crazy. So, the competition was tough. And so because of that column that people loved, I became known as the guy in the paper. And every other therapist in town, when they got, now sidebar, folks, everything I'm telling you that worked offline works 10,000 times better online because your reach is greater. Okay. So
Yeah, and let me jump on that just one quick sec. And the reason I want to jump on that is because this is a huge point. The difference between offline and online is when you're done reading the newspaper, it gets thrown out or recycled, right? The thing about the content that you put on, it has a shelf life of evergreen. So even though it may not resonate with people today, it may resonate with people later. And the key thing that you have to think about is this something that would stick around? For example, the Know, Like, and Trust article. You talked a little bit before about the woman who went into her PayPal and basically canceled a whole bunch of things. I think you told me that story, and it sparked me to write something called cancel culture, which is
I saw that was really good.
Yeah, you need to go in and cancel a whole bunch of things that you're not using and repurpose that on something else. And that was, I think it was you who sparked me to write that.
So I love that notion, play on words.
Yeah, and the whole point behind it was cancel culture is really hot now. But, if somebody's researching cancel culture 3 years from now, what was cancel culture, that's still sitting there. And if somebody finds it, they may find you, so that was my point. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to kind of.
No, they just gave me a good subject line for tomorrow or Monday's email. How I got sold on cancel culture. Or how I became big on cancel culture. Well, anyway, all the other therapists in town, when they got a call from a prospective client, there were two questions. How much do you charge, and will my insurance cover? Reasonable questions. But as you dig deeper, they're basically asking, how little can I pay you, and can I get someone else to do it? Those aren't great questions. The question I got, because of the content, was how soon can I get in to see you?
Right.
And the fee wasn't an issue. And you know what's really wild, Brian? You talked about evergreen. Here's the evergreen nature of this, folks. I have not written that column in the Tallahassee Democrat for 17 years, because it stopped in 2004. I have not practiced in Tallahassee for 14 years. And yet every month I still get a handful of people calling for appointments. And my colleagues back in Tallahassee love it, because I send them to them if they, if it's not something I can do as a coach on the phone or on Zoom. But it's coming from a column that stopped coming out 17 years ago, because they threw away the rest of their newspaper, but they cut that out. And it's been in their wallet or their purse, or wife slipped it under husband's pillow, or, all these crazy stories. And all of that, really, gosh, folks, if you don't grab anything else from today, all of those things, the power of them are multiplied online, because you've got greater reach, you've got greater evergreen. I was listening to Seth Godin the other day on Elementor, one of the website builders I use, had a special thing. And he was talking about, this is a story I want to tell you. He was invited to a invitation only, behind the scenes, closed door, some kind of technology meeting out in Arizona, right? And the keynote speaker was Neil Armstrong, okay, first man on the moon. And the way they set it up, the keynote was outdoors in an amphitheater, some kind of open amphitheater. And the way they set it up, it was full moon time there. And as Neil Armstrong started his talk, a full, huge, bright moon was rising behind him, right? So just imagine the feel of that, right?
Right.
And partway into his talk, he stopped, turned around, pointed out the moon and how beautiful it was, and said, "I've been there." Now, not a lot of people could use that line, right?
Exactly, yeah.
I've been there. And then he held up his phone and he said, and we got there with less technology and less computer power than I'm holding in my hand. And I think that says so much about what we're capable of now, and what we can do, and who we can reach, starting with those 150 you talk about, who reach other people, who help. They may never come to you, but they're helping the people that you're helping them to help.
Right.
You probably say that better, but you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, the 150 is your core tribe,
Right.
And so that 150 expands out to about 1,500 people that you know. And the goal is if that 1,500 like you enough to share, comment on your content, that expands out to about 15,000. And so, most people try to get a big list of 15,000 and drill it down to sales. I say, no, start from the trust point and build outward, because that gives you a much clearer path to actually getting people to come into your tribe. Your tribe comes and goes. I mean, there are people that you've worked with 5 years ago that won't work with you anymore, but there's new people that from that experience maybe heard about you from them and have come in and joined your tribe. So it's that one core 50 is what really your business is about in one way, shape, or form. You know what I mean?
I love that. And here's a story that encapsulates that of when my world shifted. Okay. And it was one afternoon. I was still a counseling psychologist, started playing with the internet, trying to figure it out because I realized the reach it had. And I was partners in a group that helped people practice build. And once a month we did an interview with someone, a workshop, to give them. And my partner had asked me to come on and talk about, this column thing, this article thing. And he had two things shifted there. One, he asked me to look at my stuff and to see if there was any pattern to it. And that's where the templates come from, by the way. But what really shifted it is we're on there. And one of the students told us about e-zine articles. A big place to put articles back at that time, 04 to about 2011. And she said, you can put articles on there with your links back to you, and other people come and read them and use them on their blogs and websites. And by then I'd been writing content once a week for 10 years. So I thought, I've got at least 500 of those I could upload right now. And I thought, holy crap, there's something here. And the rest is kind of history. And oh, by the way, that story about, my professors telling me I can't write. I don't know if you know this story or not, but about 3 years after I got started in this, Dr. Mary Hicks joined one of my content creation workshops.
That's the teacher?
Yeah, one of the teachers that told me I couldn't write.
Right.
My content creation workshops. And I thought, that'll mark it. That's a good story.
Yep. All right. I've got another Baconism.
All right. Bring it.
Okay. Here it comes. All right. It says that content's purpose is not just what you want people to know, but what you want people to do.
Oh, heck yes.
Okay. Well, expand on that.
Okay. Think of it this way, folks. If information alone did it, any one of us could walk into a Barnes and Noble today and come out completely self-actualized, maybe floating on air, because they got a pretty big self-help section, right? Well, you can read a self-help book, you can watch a webinar, you can watch this, you can buy a product, a course or whatever, but unless you take action, what good does it do? And so that's part of it, is that, you gotta invite people to take action. And so one of my rules for good content is that there's got to be at least one golden nugget of something to do. Okay. Well, Jeff, won't that give away the farm? No. And if it does give away your farm's too small and we got to enlarge it. Okay. It's giving them an appetizer. And when they go do that thing and have success with it, guess where they're going to come back to? To you. Right. And so, Brian, after my templates, I should still do these. One of my first products online, I called them action articles. Okay. And all they were was an article with three to five action questions included at the bottom. What stood out to you the most from this? What's your plan for getting it going before your head hits the pillow tonight? When you hit the obstacles, what's your plan for getting around? Stuff like that. And I sold them on my website for $7. You're not going to get rich off of that unless a million people buy it. But it was buying behavior, and they got a taste And then they bought the templates. Then they came in my $5,000 mentor program. So
right.
But yeah, you can. It's kind of like going to church. Okay, you ever go to church and the pastor says something deep and everybody's going ooh.
Yep.
Everybody's getting convicted. But an hour after they left, they forgot.
They cut somebody off in traffic and basically jumped in front of the line to get to the buffet faster.
Which actually happens in our parking lot because it's so big. We have a traffic team or whatever, and you can see people getting mad. My friends that do the traffic go, sometimes you just want to go, you need to go to the second service.
Yeah, right.
You need to hear this again. Now, a side note to that, you want to find out what your lane is and stay in it.
Right.
Like, I have friends in my men's group that look at me and go, how in the world do you spend hours a week with teenagers? I'd kill them. And I'd say, well, how in the world do you direct traffic on Sunday? Because I'd be kicking cars and flipping people off.
Right.
So you stay in your lane. And what question am I answering now?
Well, the question was about,
action.
Right. Content's purpose is to teach people, to get them to know something, but it's really about getting them to do something.
And so I have a triangle of wisdom with three people in it: Bob Goff, Andy Andrews, and our pastor, Andy Stanley. Okay? Because in their talking and in their writing, there's always a to-do. There's always an application. I know what to do when I've read something by them. I know what to do when I've listened to them.
Right.
And, if you guys don't know Bob Goff, he's a attorney that turned into Robin Williams as a minister, if you want to know. And Andy Andrews, he used to be a comedian, opened for Kenny Rogers. He's an author now, speaker. And you'll like this about corporations, Brian. Andy goes into corporations and works on the culture.
Sure.
Okay? And he's behind the scenes. He doesn't talk about this a lot. Behind the scenes, he's had his hand in about half of the last 10 national football championships. Now, he quit playing ball when he was 6 years old.
Wow.
And he doesn't work with the players at all. He works with the coaching staff to set up a culture that allows winning. So when you watch Alabama play and all the other teams, when they show the pictures on screen are, looking big and bad and tough and pointing and stuff, and all the Alabama players have on a suit and tie, there's a reason for that.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
Look for what you're going to do. Look for the action to take. Listen to your coach and don't ever quit.
Right. The other thing that I think is important too, and this is what we talked about when we did the webinar for your people, is that one of the things that happens a lot is people will buy programs, and they'll do things, but they'll stop. They don't have the follow through. It's like they need that continual thing. So you bring people into your coaching programs on a weekly basis to keep them accountable. And I've found that when I teach classes and I finish up after 4 or 6 classes, people are wowed by the content, but they never do it. And so that, to me, the accountability side of things, it's not only what you want them to know, what you want them to do, but then what you want them to achieve too. I think the accountability side is the achievement thing. It's applying what they've learned. People can do it. You tell people, be consistent with your content, put something up every single week. They may do it for a while, but they don't see any response. They're not getting what they need. See, the accountability needs to be, are you doing what you should be doing consistently? Are you doing the right thing consistently? Is there a better way to do this? What about it that is driving you crazy? What are your expectations? There's so much more to this, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know what the secret is?
What?
It's behind my head.
It's that. Yep.
I'll scoot over. No, this way. And it's right there. Okay. It says your fortune and your future are in the follow-up.
Yep.
Your fortune and your future are in the follow-up. And following up with people allows you to do that. That's why the two things I'm really focused on now are helping people templatize their enterprise, a template for everything that they find hard, and the membership site, so there's ability to follow up with people. And not just me. My group is so encouraging, but they're also so accountable to each other. They'll kick somebody in the butt if they're not doing stuff. Because you know our buddy Mike Stewart, right?
Oh yeah, big time.
Well, when it was spring of 2007, and I had met him once, and he had done one smaller, like multi-speaker internet marketing thing, and I volunteered to be the person on stage when he was teaching audio, right? And you got to share your domain name and talk about what you did and do an audio with him. It's like, heck yeah, I'll do that. Well, it was about a month later at Big Seminar. Remember those?
Yep.
And it was Sunday morning. There was about 500 people in the room, and he needed volunteers. But half the room was asleep and the other half were hungover. And nobody was volunteering. So I'm jumping in the back, and they call on me, and he sees that it's me when I walk on stage, and he's like, "Didn't you just do this?" But I got in front of 500 people.
Right.
Okay, giving out my domain name. And 500 people that were going to the back of the room all weekend. He had an offer. After that, it was a $1,500 offer. That was the last bit of money I had right then. And he did pretty good that day, Brian. He sold 55 of those.
Wow.
Yeah, that's not bad math.
No, that's pretty
and
good
so I called him up because part of the package was a follow-up one-on-one session with him. Okay? And I called him up and I said, "Hey, I want to take you up on that." And when he found out what exit I lived off of, we discovered we lived like 7 exits apart.
Wow.
And he was like, "Come over here, man, have lunch and we'll hang out on the deck and maybe go out on the boat and let's talk about this." I'm like, all right. So great friendship and partnership was born. But the thing that just breaks my heart and underscores what you're talking about, the importance of follow-up, how many of those 55 people do you think took him up on that consult?
Well, on average, 2.
He did a little bit better. I was one of 4.
One of 4. Okay. So he had 4 people, which is
that's absolutely insane to me.
Right.
What? How can that possibly be until you stop and think about human nature?
Yes.
Okay. And that's what we do. We get excited and we don't follow through. If I can get somebody to follow through, oh my goodness, that's gold.
Yeah.
And you know how you get people to follow through? You show them that they can know, like, and trust you.
Well, and you have to hold them accountable. I mean, you have to have a conversation with them. And the thing is that you've got to reach out to them. You've got to give them the opportunity. You've got to remind them. And that's one of the things that, when I talk about the tribe and the 150, okay, the whole concept behind that is you pick 150 people that you want in that tribe, but it's your job to reach out to every single one of those 150 people once per month. 12 times per year. And the thing is, if they don't respond back to you, you pull them out, you put somebody else in who will. And the key thing with that is your responsibility. I could show you how to get those 150 people. If you don't do the work to talk to those people, it ain't going to work.
Right.
And that's the key. So you have to be accountable for that. And that's one of the things that I think is really uber important. So
hey, listeners, and
go ahead.
A piece of that. I have one question I ask people when they're talking to me about Content Creation Nation. And this is my screening process. I say this, okay, I will hold your hand and guide you through the forest, dark and scary forest of internet marketing. And 2, I will hold your feet to the fire. Hold you accountable for what you said you wanted. And then my question is, can you handle those 2 things?
Right.
And if they can, okay, cool, let's work together. If they can't, then let's not do this.
Yeah. No, and I think that's uber important too within this. And again, that's when I get back to that 150, which again, we're talking about.
I love your 150, man.
Thank you. The whole core behind that is this somebody who is CRM worthy? Is this somebody I want to stay in touch with? Is this something, of value to both of us, not just me? Do I have value to them? Do they have value to me? It's a partnership. It's one of those kind of things. And that's the key to making this work. All right. We got 15 minutes less, a little less than that. Left a little less. And so here's your final Baconism. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm going to put on my glasses for this one because I got to read it. Okay.
I totally understand.
All right. So it is here it is. Okay. Quality content contains a themed buffet of tasty bites.
Quality content contains a themed display.
No, a themed buffet.
Themed buffet. THEMED.
Right. Themed buffet of tasty bites.
You just described in one sentence why I have people commit to consistent content creation. Mm-hmm. Okay. Back to the column. There were weeks when the Democrat didn't publish it or something happened. The phone calls, the emails I got, where's your column? Okay. The same time with the regular stuff I do online. Okay. When you're consistently delivering content, you are giving the world all the way down to year 150 a themed buffet of good stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay? And my men's group just started a book called Wild at Heart that I read 10 years ago. And mm-hmm. I was talking about how picking it up and rereading it, it's a completely different book. And one of the guys in the group goes, that could be because you're a completely different person than 10 years ago.
Well, yeah. And that's the whole point why you want to reread certain books.
Yeah. It's like, I hope I am, or else I've wasted 10 years. Mm-hmm. The point is that when you create content, you're putting those tasty bites out there. Now, listen, folks, this is important. Okay. Now, hang on a second.
Yep.
When you create content, 200 to 650 words or more if you want, on a regular basis, here's what you get. You get the same authority, credibility, all the good stuff that comes with being an author without jumping through all those hoops. Okay? Right. Now, you need to be an author. You need to have a book. You need to be able to hold something up like Brian does, and this is mine. Okay? And so you need to do both. But do I call it the Seth Godin model. I get one of his emails mm-hmm. every morning, right?
Yep, me too. I joined because you told me about it.
Yep, good. And you know what? I'll read those, and then I'll read them again in one of his books. Okay, this is mm-hmm. his most recent one. This is marketing, and the reason I'll read them again is that's how he writes his books.
Yep.
And so when you're creating an article a week, a video, something a week, you can bundle those up. I mean, what if we took these monthly things we do, these content conversations, had them transcribed, and turned them into a series that people could either get the ebook or the video or the whole training behind it. We're creating a small ebook right now.
Right.
And for those of you that are reading the ebook, have a little, oh crap, I'm blanking on we're having a little matrix moment here, okay?
Yep.
For those of you that are reading this ebook and we're talking about this, you're doing what we talked about. So you now know it works.
Right, exactly. And so one of the core concepts behind this is I think that writer's block, ideas, content, it tends to be overwhelming to some people because it's like, what do I write? How do I write an article? The key thing is that for everybody, I think, if you go to a buffet, and when I say a theme buffet, let's talk about when you go to a Chinese restaurant and they have the buffet, you can have a little bit of the fried rice, a little bit of the noodles, a little bit of the, whatever it is, the pot stickers. You can go and grab the things that you like and taste them and get a sense of, you know what? I really like the pot stickers. Those things are really good. And that sauce you put on it, man, that stuff is awesome. So you can go back and order that again. And so, but the key thing is that your audience votes based on, bottom line is that the people in the back who are cooking are not going to sit there and make, 5 of this and 5 of this and 5 of this when only one is getting eaten, right? Because it's not popular. So they may have to make 5 batches of pot stickers, but maybe only 1 batch of, calamari, whatever it is, so based on what people are consuming, they're going to basically give you the option to have it all, but they'll make more of that. So that tells you that, hey, this particular thing is resonating. I need to do an article on this, and it could start with something as simple as a graphic or a meme. That's the one thing you've taught your people is, man, you can start with a meme. If the meme is popular, do something more with it. Do a video on the meme. And if the video is popular, write an article on the meme. And if the article is popular, then write a book on the article. Write more articles.
One of my favorite things I do every week was born. Okay. On Monday mornings at 11 o'clock, Content Creation Nation gets together for our Monday morning money-making content creation. Called M4C2, like R2D2. And it came about from a boot camp we did. It wasn't a boot camp; it was a master class. It was a 5-day challenge. Forgive me.
You do so many different things; it's hard to remember.
Tell me about it. And so somebody asked me recently, "How do you remember all the stuff you do?" I said, "You're assuming I remember."
Right. Well, the bottom line, it's recorded most of the time.
Thank God for that. But anyway, on Monday of that week, we created content. Okay. And for the next few days, everybody said that was so cool to take the time to walk us through creating a piece of content, Jeff, on Monday morning. So we had our content for the week. And I went, that needs to become a regular feature here. And we do it every Monday morning at 11. It's probably my favorite thing to do each week. We grab a template and we model it and I demo it. And then I take people through. Okay, give me your title. You need to add this, give me your tip. Okay, that was a good one. Keep that the same, and within a half hour, 45 minutes, dozens of people have got their content for the week, and so I love the way you said you could start with a meme. You can start with anything because this will be deep. Anything can become anything else.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, you could take a webinar and turn it into an ebook and turn it into blog posts and turn it into, videos and then turn it into graphics. Or you could take a graphic and go the opposite direction, or you can start in the middle and spread out the other way. I mean, that's the beauty. And that's what the buffet, this is one thing that you taught me. And that's why I came up with that thought but a themed buffet means that it's either a Super Bowl party or it's an Hawaiian party. The thing is it's what's the niche behind that? There's got to be a niche. I mean, if you mix Hawaiian food with soul food with, you may be able to spread a whole bunch of that stuff out and people may get it, but it's like, what's the deal here? It's like, there's not enough Chinese food. I like the pot stickers. I want fried rice to go with that. I don't want, black-eyed peas to go with my pot stickers. It doesn't make any sense. Right. I mean, somebody may like that, but generally speaking, we like a theme.
You're reminding me of a place around from my office in Tallahassee when I was in practice called China Garden. It was the best Asian Oriental buffet I'd ever seen in my life. Sushi to everything in between, right? And so I'd run over there between clients for lunch. And every time I'd go over there, I'd tell myself, just one plate. You're not going back. You know how well that went over.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And so what was terrible about it is going back to the office, and it was a day like today where it's clouding up, and it was overcast in the afternoon or raining or whatever. And somebody that was really low energy or depressed would come in.
Yeah.
And I'm full of this Chinese food sitting in my chair in a dark room. And it's like, give me some toothpicks. I got to pay attention.
Stick them in your eyes.
That's right. And I never had to do it, but I had a plan for if I ever did doze off. And my plan was when they woke me up or I came to, I'd say, oh, this is cool because I was trying out a new technique. I was having a little mini dream about how to solve the problem. Here it is. I never had to use it, so I don't know if it would work. But anyway, so yeah, the theme can be content creation. The theme can be audience building. The theme can be the know, like, and trust. Mm-hmm. The theme can be couples communication or couples conflict. The theme can be, surviving the teenage years.
Right.
And those are sub niches, but there's so many things underneath that. Folks, I'm telling you, once you start looking through content eyes, like we said earlier, you can content eyes anything. And when you use templates, you'll never run out of content. I no longer believe in writer's block. You're just not using the right tools.
Well, and the key thing about writer's block is there's ideas everywhere. And that's the key thing is I listen to audiobooks on Blinkist. I joined Masterclass. I'm now listening to that, and I'm listening. And one of the coolest, and this is going to sound funky to everybody, but one of the coolest ones that I've been listening to is Karl Rove and David Axelrod talking about creating political campaigns. And the reason
that's fascinating,
it's phenomenal. And the reason is because a political campaign is basically, if you sit down and look at it from a different perspective, it's a 2-year business. That's all it is. Huh?
They're creating tribes.
They are creating tribes, but they're also niching out because when they talk, the stuff I'm learning from this is quite amazing. You're going to have your one side that's going to vote for you, the other side that's not going to vote for you. And the only people you're focusing on is the people in between that are undecided. And then the people that are undecided in different locations, say you're doing a state, are going to be different in the big city versus the rural. And then the key thing is that how do you create messaging around that? How do you convince people? How do you do focus groups? What do focus groups mean? And the one thing that they said today when I was walking the dog, which was amazing, was you have to have a mix. You cannot get out without a mix of positive messages, about counterpunch messages when somebody else comes after you, and negative messages against them. And they all have to have a purpose, and they all have to be true, and they have to be strategically done over that 2-year time for the greatest impact. And you're sitting here learning how to run a business and create content. They're giving you a map to run a business plan.
I'm going to listen to this. And now, to point that out in real time, folks, in real life, come back with us to 2016. Okay?
Right.
And put all political beliefs,
right,
whether you're in the jackass or the elephant thing, whatever you're in, okay, put that aside because this is not about that.
Right,
okay?
It's not. Right.
But I have a question for you, Brian. What was Trump's slogan?
Make America great again.
Exactly. What was Clinton's slogan?
I'm with her.
That was one of them.
Yeah. But she didn't have a good slogan. She had a really
changed to Better Together. And then it changed 4 or 5 times.
Right, exactly.
And none of them stuck.
Right.
Make America great again for whatever reason and for all the good and bad that came from that.
Right.
Stuck.
Well, it did stuck, but there's a whole bunch of deep psychology behind a lot of this stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it deals with hope. It deals with feels my pain. It deals with, I'm anti-government. I'm pro this, there's so much that goes into it. And I wish the slogan was the only thing. And I agree with you 110%. He had much better marketing. He was a guy that was on TV. Everybody knew him. They knew what he was, so, but see, this is why I love this conversation. We've come, believe it or not, we've used up our hour. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing?
Every time, man.
Yeah. But the key thing is, this is why we want to keep bringing you back. And this is why we want people to come back, because there's so much deep, good stuff to think about. From a perspective, you can create content, and content is the cornerstone of building a business. Because if you can't get your messages out in advertising online, it's really hard to get people to buy things, right? All right.
Absolutely. So as we talked about application and action, folks, It's going to come up on the screen here in a second. 3 fresh content. That was good, Brian. 3 fresh content ideas.com. Go there, sign up. You'll get 3, 1, 2, 3, really fresh, not the same old content ideas that you can use in any niche. Right? And I'd love to see what you come up with. So would Brian.
Yep. Absolutely. So anyways, I want to thank you again, man, for coming on and spending your time with your Saturday. You could be doing a lot of other things. You could be out finding bones in the mountains, you know, but
that's
but you choose,
if it doesn't rain.
Yeah, but you choose to spend it with us, and I appreciate you and your time.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. I look forward to this. This is fun.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. So I'm gonna send this off with some bacon and coffee logos. And guys, check us out next week. We'll be here. Jeff is on every single month in the middle of the month. So just look for those, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Have a great one. Thank you.